Afternoon. Here's another Friday fraud law review. This concerns the Middle District of Alabama, a gentleman by the name of Kenneth Churdin, it looks like, Glasgow, 58, from Dothan, Alabama. Okay, so he got himself in a little jam here with some pretty poor choices. And this one's interesting to me because it's not exactly directly, well, Social Security would be involved because there was all sorts of tax evasions going on in addition to other things. So when you look at it, there is the DEA, the FBI, the IRS criminal investigation, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General, and the Social Security Administration Office of Inspector General, all involved in investigating the case, which along with the Dothan Police Department, so local, not involved with federal, to really bring this to some closure and get this guy convicted. It was then looks like it was prosecuted by Assistant United States Attorneys Kirkpatrick and Bates and Moulton. Okay. Anyway, just such all these different agencies coming in. And I wonder if that's because it was a little bit more money than sometimes we're reporting on. So here's what went down. Dear Kenneth decided to, according to court documents, and this report, which, as you know, it's all from the Social Security Administration Office of Inspector General is where I get this stuff from. Apparently Ken, let's just call him Kenny, founded two nonprofit organizations. One was called the Ordinary People's Society, TOPS, and the other, the Prodigal Child Project, PCP. He then solicited donations from other places, including nonprofits and foundations, representing to them and to the IRS that the funds he was soliciting and receiving were they would be donations for charitable purposes. However, he apparently decided to withdraw over $400,000 in cash from the accounts of one of his nonprofits. That was in 2018. And he used the money for his own benefit. And because he did that, amongst other things, he was required to report the funds as income on his own tax return. However, he failed to even file a return for that year. Okay. Then it says that in an attempt to conceal his activity, so I guess he knew what he was doing was wrong, he provided incorrect information to his tax preparer, causing the preparer to complete the IRS forms for his nonprofit organizations that really underestimated the income of the organizations. And it also omitted the financial benefits that Kenny himself had received from them. So then from 2016 to 2019, so a little broader period than that one big 400,000 plus withdrawal, he withdrew a total in that total period of, wow, over $1,300,000 from the two nonprofits he had started, TOPS and PCP. And he never accounted for that money on the nonprofit's IRS forms or on any of his own tax returns. So here we got a plethora of things. I can't even imagine what all went down. It says here he was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison for tax evasion, mail fraud, and drug conspiracy charges. So he also has $376,000 plus in restitution to pay back. I'm always curious if that ever happens, if it gets paid back. And he will have 3 years of supervised release after his prison term is over. Okay. The U.S. mail crimes in here apparently were because he, and this is interesting, he mailed documents containing false statements to the SSA. So now we got the little tie-in with the SSA, so that he could continue receiving, oh boy, Social Security disability benefits and related health benefits under Medicare and Medicaid programs. What's interesting about that is if he was considered Social Security disabled and he's collecting that, which you could have a nonprofit own it and have someone else managing it. if you're disabled. So disabled people can still own assets and, and businesses. They just can't be able to work at them more than, the minimum amount and the limitations. But I see here, he was getting Medicare and Medicaid. It's suggesting in here. Medicare would go with the SSD. Medicaid would be, you only get that if you're poor enough. So his failure to file tax returns was probably to make sure he was showing up as poor enough so he could get the Medicaid, which is then covering his Medicare premiums, presumably, because it was dual eligible, covering his copays and deductibles. So not good. So we said the false statements to the SSA, they described his physical abilities and daily activities as being very limited, despite reporting that he worked 50 to 60 hours per week for his nonprofits on the nonprofits IRS forms. Okay, there you go. So he said to meet the SSA's standards, we can get that SSD payment and keep the Medicare. He apparently said one thing about being unable to work and not working, beyond something very puny, if at all. But on his nonprofits IRS forms, I guess to be that big leader and have so much control over them, I'm guessing he reported that indeed he worked 50 to 60 hours a week managing them, or working for them in some way on those nonprofits IRS forms. Okay, wow. In some SSA forms, apparently, Kenny claimed that his physical limitations were so severe that he had difficulty driving and had to ride with somebody. These statements apparently were not true. Court records show that Kenny admitted to leasing a vehicle and using funds from one of his nonprofits, and he wrote himself down as the sole driver of that leased vehicle. You see how this stuff can come get you, bite you in the butt. He had also received traffic citations relating to, more than 24 traffic stops between 2015 and 2020, thereby also showing that he was in fact driving, although apparently he's not a very good driver, so maybe he was right. I don't know. Gosh, what a tangled web, huh, guys? So he was also charged, and the sentence included the charge for conspiring with his co-defendant. Oh, now let me just see. All right, Peterson. Willie Frank Peterson, 50 years old. Let's toss him in there. Also from Dothan. I'm only mentioning his name because both these gentlemen have been convicted. Otherwise, I wouldn't, due to the old presumption of innocence until proven guilty, which I feel very strongly about. Anyway, so apparently conspiring with Willie to possess cocaine with intent to distribute. Wow, this is a busy guy. Peterson had pled guilty to his involvement in the drug conspiracy a few months ago. Looks like this spring, March. And according to his plea agreement, Kenny had agreed to purchase the cocaine from Peterson in 2018 and 2019. Willie has not been sentenced yet, but it looks like he's going to be sentenced next week. Good luck there, Willie. Yeah. And as I said before, we had the DEA, the FBI, the IRS, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the SSA, as well as kudos to the Dothan Police Department. Good job, everybody. Got to get rid of these kind of guys and gals that do these things, because they're really stripping funds from the people who deserve them and or work for them, right? That's what it's all about. All right. Bye, guys.